We're at a nice, beautiful, overcast day here in Southern California. I wanted to do a little video today showing some of the differences on the Apple Watch Ultra and the Garmin Epix. So sillily, is that a word? Sillily enough, I have both on my wrists here. Just gonna go for a 5K walk. Was that like 3.2 miles? And just talk to you about some of my thoughts, having owned at least the Epix since launch, which was it's back in like January of this year, and the Ultra since the launch end of September. So I'm gonna take a little walk, use both of them, kind of see and share my thoughts with you. So one of the most interesting things about the Apple Watch Ultra, which kind of look at them both here, let me get them side by side. It's a big watch for sure, but if you're used to Garmin watches or you're used to watches that, are larger, whether that's, I see people wear Rolexes still, I guess that's still a thing. And bigger watches, it's not a big deal, right? I think a lot has been made about the 49 millimeter case size, but it's a big watch, but I don't think it's gonna break you in half. And I also don't think that the Epix and the Fenix 7 line and the Enduro, even the 7X, that line is very big. Now, if you have a small wrist, every watch is gonna be big, right? And then you're kind of looking at the Apple Watch Series 8, 42 millimeter, whatever, as your biggest watch, if you have a small wrist. Or Fenix 7S, if you're looking at the Garmin side of things. So, problem is when you have a bigger wrist, like myself, believe my wrist is 175 millimeters, so larger size wrist. You've got more to think about when you got a bigger wrist. So, one of the things I think you have to decide if you're going for either watch is connectivity. And much has been made about this on the internet, obviously. But look, the Garmin is not a smartwatch. It is a fitness watch. And if you're someone who hikes, you're someone who runs, you won't like, a smart watch that just does smart features. Like the Pixel watch that just came out. It's a smart watch. It's got fitness features, but it doesn't do fitness very well. Let's talk about that. Do I want a fitness watch or do I want a smart watch? That's the question you should be asking yourself. If you just want a smart watch and you're on Android, get a Pixel watch. Get a Galaxy Watch Active or Galaxy Watch 4 or 5, whatever they are now. Get one of those. There's some feature differences between those, but get what's best for you. If you want to do fitness, regardless of what platform you have, Garmin is the best watch out there, hands down. Whether it's a Fenix, a Epix, doesn't matter. It even beats the Apple Watch Ultra. I think the Apple Watch Ultra is an amazing watch, right? It's big. The battery life is the best on any Apple Watch. It has some cool fitness features. It's got some cool kind of features suited for someone who's outdoors. But it lacks something that differentiates it from the base Apple Watch. And what I mean by that is they're giving you an extra day and a half, 2 days of battery life, however you want to look at it, but they're not doing enough to extend that battery life long term. And what I mean by that also is, look, Garmin's running their processor at a much slower clock speed. Yes, the Apple Watch is incredibly powerful, right? It's a massive processor, it's running so fast. But one of the worst parts about it is that it's running so fast, right? You don't really need that. If you've used a Garmin Epix, like I have here, if you've used any Garmin watches, they're very responsive. Are they as responsive and as fluid as the Apple Watch? No way. No way. But do you need that fluidity? I don't know. I believe wholeheartedly, again, not an engineer, but I believe wholeheartedly that if we reduce the clock speed on the Apple Watch Ultra, if we focused more on longevity in the long term, you could probably get more battery life up to 5 days. If they hit that 5 to 7 day mark, as a smartwatch mode, fantastic, right? And I think that's the struggle. So Apple Watch, fitness, the Ultra's got better battery life, a couple, unique features, but the Garmin just still, is a fitness watch first. Has smart features that aren't really great, but they're there if you absolutely need them. But the Apple Watch Ultra, just the battery life and the longevity just isn't there, sadly. Now, display-wise, yes, the Ultra destroys the Epix. Although I don't know why I can't keep, my Ultra screen on at all times. We always default to this, time mode. Again, battery savings, I don't know, but the Epix screen will dim, but I can still at a glance, not very well with this light, but I can still at a glance see everything. Sorry for the noise. We're rolling across the 405 here in Irvine, California. Now, despite all that, I'm not saying that the Epix or the Phoenix series or the Enduro or the Tactics or the Mark, Garmin has taken their 7th generation platform and kind of extended it everywhere. I'm not saying that these watches are better than the Apple Watch Ultra. No, actually I'm saying the opposite, believe it or not. I think the Apple Watch is a better watch overall. If you're thinking, I want to ride every single day, I want to walk every single day, but I also want to be connected. Again, connectivity. It's just better on the Apple Watch. For me personally, as someone who really enjoys long battery life, I love it. I have battery anxiety. I don't know about you, but I love the Epix. I had the Phoenix 7 Sapphire Solar. Love that watch. Man, talk about 3 weeks on battery life. It's crazy. But one thing about the Apple Watch Ultra that just does it better, and Garmin isn't trying to compete with right now on their Phoenix setup, it's connectivity, right? Phone calls, messages, calendar events, right? It's there on the Epix, and to be honest, it's a much better experience on the Epix screen versus the Phoenix screen. But when we're comparing the Ultra and the Epix, it's just a better experience on the Ultra. And it's so much better that in the future, when they come out with an Epix Gen 3 with the Venue 2 Plus features of Smart Assistant, phone calls, etc., even then it'll be closer, but the messages experience isn't there, and that's by design, right? There's so many experiences that aren't quite there yet. So what's the answer? Well, what's most important to you? Ironically, on these watches, it doesn't come down to sports. In fact, it doesn't come down to battery life. It comes down to connectivity. Would you rather be connected with messages and phone calls and just feel like it is a smartwatch on your wrist? Or are you not as concerned with that? I don't really think that these watches, the sport features, are really what sets them apart. It's the connectivity. For I think both of these watches, you're gonna see the better screen on the Ultra. I mean, bar none. Some reflections going on right now, but even at full brightness, the Ultra is just better. So then you're like, okay, connectivity, but what about screens? Yeah, the Ultra's got the better screen, right? It's got the better experience. However, next to each other, the Ultra's only better next to the Epix. And I think if you didn't have them all side by side, I think one of the most important things is that you would be happy with the Epix experience. You're using the Apple Watch Ultra, it feels like an Apple Watch, it feels good, but ultimately, the Epix is an amazing experience. And here's where I think the problem lies, right? I think at the end of the day, you're gonna go back and forth between both watches if you own both. I bought the Apple Watch Ultra as a way of saying, okay, connectivity to me, it is more important, right? I like to think of myself as a fitness enthusiast, right? I enjoy fitness, I enjoy walking, running, cycling are my 3 big ones, but my most favorite sport is hiking. And I think I don't do hiking enough to really obviously make sense of the cost of both of these watches. What I do more is I work 2 different jobs. Being connected to me is really important. However, at that point you may say, okay, well, if you like both, why don't you do the Apple Watch during the week and the Epix on the weekends? Well, the problem is right there, right? The Apple Watch is best when you're sharing metrics, when you're competing against friends, when you're doing these things that are really amazing, right? And the Epix is best when body battery is going, when your stress score is explaining a lot, right? These health metrics, wearing it to sleep, building these sort of recovery metrics, that is when these watches are at their best. Now, the unfortunate part is you gotta wear it all the time to get that. However, can you do both? Maybe. I'm kind of in between right now. I don't have an answer for you. I'm not gonna sit here and say the Apple Watch Ultra is the watch to get. I'm not gonna sit here and say Garmin has a watch that you must have. It certainly isn't the Epix because of the price, and it certainly isn't the Phoenix line or the Forerunner. I mean, there's so many options. I think that's the best part about all of this. Being a consumer, you can choose what you want. The downside of this is getting on YouTube and watching videos like this one where you're like, oh, I don't have an answer, what should I get? At the end of the day, get what's right for you. I think one of the questions that I'm posing in this video is this idea of connectivity. Is that most important to you, or is battery life most important to you, or fitness? I mean, you know the answer to that question, but is connectivity most important to you? Because I think that's where the Apple Watch Ultra excels. Some of my biggest annoyances with the Apple Watch Ultra are well documented. There's no ability to restart a workout after ending it. There's no ability to pause it with a button other than a 2-button press, which I end up hitting a 3-button press, taking screenshots. It's a mess. The Garmin has so many annoyances, right? Music on it is awful. The Bluetooth connection, no matter what pair of headphones you're wearing, is pretty bad. The Epix has some battery life issues if you're using it 24/7 with an always-on display. I'm getting anywhere from like 4 to 6 days out of it, depending on the amount of activities I do. However, the maps on the Epix are amazing. The maps on the Apple Watch are non-existent, and to be honest, I don't know why they still refuse to add maps natively to the workout app. Okay? Having said all that, what do you think? What should you do? Well, if you're me, you're playing with both still, you're not sure, but it comes down to connectivity, and I think that's something you should really think about. So having said all that, here's both watches. We're paused in the middle of a run. Again, I hate how the Apple Watch platform always hits you back to that screen. If I want to stay here, I can't. It's going to kick me back here to the time. I know I can extend that time in the settings app, but it just doesn't make sense. Dim the screen like everyone else does. In terms of coatings, you can kind of see here on the Garmin on the DLC Sapphire display, I've lost a little bit of that diamond-like coating on the top. The titanium on the Apple Watch is actually still in good shape. I've had this obviously for less time, but I've been wearing it more. In terms of bands, I really love the this $20 nylon band I got on Amazon. I'll link that below. And the, what do you call that? The woven sort of loop that you can get on the Apple Watch. I like that a lot. Again, you know, the Apple Watch, you can just tell the screen refresh rate's a lot better than the Epix, but at the end of the day, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to not like either of these watches. Again, what's the downside? The downside is if you choose one of the options and you say, well, I don't really like it and I kind of want to do the other one, then you're going to be thinking quite a bit about, hey, what if? So don't do that. Be happy with the purchase. Know that they're great. Now, there's a $200 price delta between the two. If you go for something like the Phoenix 7 without solar, you know, it's a different experience, right? It's not really comparable in my opinion because it's not an AMOLED display. So keep that in mind. So yeah, that's the Apple Watch Ultra and the Epix Gen 2. There will be a Gen 3, I'm sure, next year or the year after, and it will include some smart features, but ultimately the connectivity is not going to be there. So what do you do today? I don't know. For me, I'm still deciding. Still have a week left on this Apple Watch to see if I want to keep it. I do like it, but man, I love my Epix. But is the Apple Watch a better watch? I don't know, right? Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Take care.